Join me tonight on Twitch at 11:30 p.m. Eastern at the conclusion of Sunday Night Football, where we'll talk about everything that happened in Week 4 of the NFL season. Plus, I'll have my thoughts about today's Jaguars game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Link to join below. And now, on with our feature presentation. Monday, October 27th, 1997. It's Week 9 of the NFL season, and we have a big interconference battle on our hands in front of a national television audience between the New England Patriots and the Green Bay Packers. Aside from the fact that both teams enter this game with identical 5-2 records and would jump to first, or at least to tie for first place in their division with a win, this was a monumental game for the simple fact that this was a rematch of Super Bowl XXXI, which took place 10 months prior down in New Orleans. It's not often that you get the two teams that met last season in the Super Bowl playing against each other the following season, but we have that here, making this, arguably, the most anticipated regular season game on the entire calendar. But what no one knew about this game at the time was that it would lead to one of the craziest and gutsiest performances in the over century-long history of the Green Bay Packers and the over half-century-long history of Monday Night Football. Because on this day, a running back out of Georgia Tech by the name of Dorsey Levens was set to take the country by storm, and was set to do it with a nasty injury to his collarbone. He probably had no business being out there and playing in the game, as he was in excruciating pain, and the pain did not subside one bit. Not only was he not 100%, but based on his quotes and the severity of the injury, I'm not even sure if he was at 10%. But what followed, on one of the biggest stages possible, was a performance that, against all odds, was the best of his entire career. And a quarter century later, when talking about some of the gutsiest performances of all time, and especially in Packers and Monday Night Football history, this one has been somewhat forgotten, but deserves to be remembered. Because this is the story behind Dorsey Levens and his absolutely improbable game. Before I talk about the actual performance in question and just how good it was, we need some context to understand just who Dorsey Levens was, how he was playing entering this game, and the severity of the injury at hand. Because it truly was a nasty injury that I can't imagine anyone dealing with, and then taking shot after shot in an actual game with it. This is Dorsey Levens, and after 3 seasons with the Packers, including a 1996 season where he was a solid rotational piece at the running back position and had 566 yards on 4.7 yards per carry, helping the Packers win their 3rd Super Bowl in franchise history, he was expected to assume a similar role in 1997 as the backup to their starting running back from last year, Edgar Bennett. However, when Bennett ruptured his Achilles tendon during the 1997 preseason, it became next man up, and Levens assumed the position as the number 1 running back. Levens had some big shoes to fill, and through the first 7 games of the season, he was putting up quite the numbers, to the point where you didn't really notice Bennett's absence. Through the first 7 weeks of the season, Levens had already surpassed his career high with 596 rushing yards, averaging 4.9 yards per carry, and finding the end zone twice, with 1 being on a run and 1 being on a catch. And there were multiple games in that stretch where Levens eclipsed the 100-yard mark, including a 23-18 win over the Miami Dolphins, where he picked up a whopping 5.8 yards per carry on 121 yards rushing. After 7 weeks, Levens ranked 9th in the NFL in rushing yards, and was a force to be reckoned with on an already really talented Green Bay offense. So far, it definitely seemed like everything was going swimmingly for Levens in his 4th season in the NFL. The Packers were winning, he was getting reps, and he was definitely making the most of his opportunity in the wake of Bennett's brutal injury. However, in Week 7, in a 24-23 victory over the division rival Chicago Bears, where Levens ran for 74 yards, he would suffer an injury of his own. Because at some point during this game, though it wasn't entirely clear when or where, other than the fact that it came in the first half, Levens suffered an injury to his clavicle. To be more specific, he had a sprained SC joint, which is the joint that connects the collarbone to the sternum. The good news for Levens and the Packers was that they had a bye that week, so it gave Levens some additional time to recover. The bad news was that this injury was incredibly severe. As Levens said a day after the game, "I have to go to the hospital right now. Seriously. It just got worse as it went along. I can't even move it today." And as many of the Packers players were on vacation and were enjoying the week off, Levens was staying behind in Green Bay, getting tests done and trying to heal his clavicle as quickly as possible. But while Levens was starting to feel just a tiny bit better, it was not even close to enough to feel good, let alone to feel in a position where you're going to allow your body and your neck to take a ton of shots. 1 week after the injury, Levens' agent, Hadley Engelhard, said this one is strictly biology. It takes time. Throughout the week, Levens did next to nothing from a practice standpoint, with Aaron Hayden and Chris Starkins getting all of the reps at that position. Levens remained on the injury report throughout the week leading up to the game, and for all intents and purposes, no one, and I truly mean no one, expected Levens to play in this game. Offensive coordinator Sherm Lewis even flat out said that Levens wasn't going to play on Monday night, and talked about how they'd have to adjust their game plan without him. Aaron Hayden was talking about what this opportunity meant for him, and Sherm Lewis said, "We're going to miss Dorsey. No question." I mean, that pretty much sums up the severity of the injury. When the coach is meeting with reporters and is talking about how one of their star players won't be able to go, that's when you know. And Lewis wasn't the only one on the coaching staff talking about Levens and how he was out. Running backs coach Harry Sidney spent his time with reporters talking about the increased role that backup running back Travis Jervey was going to now have that Levens wasn't playing. As Sidney said, Jervey's the forgotten guy, but he's working hard, catching the ball, and doing all the things he needs to be ready. And if that wasn't enough evidence, even the training staff had no idea what was going on with Levens, seeing as this kind of injury was bizarre. Heck, I've done so many videos on this channel before, and I've talked at length about a ton of different injuries that players have suffered. But this is the first time I've ever talked about a sprained SC joint and clavicle. Levens said, "I don't know how much of a beating I can take." The training staff has never seen this kind of injury before, so they don't know either. So just to recap where we are right now, we have a running back in Dorsey Levens who suffered a nasty neck injury and who didn't practice. You had people on the training and the medical staff saying that he wasn't going to play because even if he was healthy enough, because they never seen an injury like that before, they didn't know how much of a beating he could handle and that it wasn't worth the risk, especially in a regular season game. You had other running backs on the team talking in the press conference about needing to step up now that Levens was out. You had coaches on the team talking about how Levens was going to be out and letting the cat out of the bag. There was nothing whatsoever to indicate that Levens was going to play in this game and somehow come back from a neck injury that required him to go to the hospital without missing a single game. But with that being said, you might be able to see where this one is going. Because on that Monday night, in front of just about the entire country, not only did Levens play, but he somehow played the game of his life. Anytime you can go on the road on Monday Night Football in a game for first place of the division and in a rematch of the Super Bowl, and you win the game and win it by 3 possessions, that's always good. And the Packers did just that, winning by a final score of 28-10. After falling behind 10-7 in the first half, they score the final 21 points of the game and outscore the Patriots 14-0 in the second half. It was a thoroughly dominant performance by the Packers on both sides of the ball. They went 11 for 16 on third down, converting a very nice 69% of the time. They won the turnover battle by 3, and starting quarterback Brett Favre had another great day at the office, throwing for 239 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions, while posting a passer rating of 117.2. However, if you were to ask someone who the most important player of the game was, and the main individual responsible for Green Bay going into Foxboro and coming out of there with a win, they would point to the man you've been watching this whole time. Because this truly was Dorsey Levens' night to shine. On a night where no one thought he was going to play, and where just about everyone said he had no business playing, he not only balled out, but had the game of his life while doing so. Levens entered this game with 2 touchdowns, one of which came on the ground, and the other one coming through the air. Levens matched that total in this Monday night affair, scoring the first touchdown of the game when he caught a touchdown pass for a 6-yard score in the first quarter, and scoring the last touchdown of the game when he ran it in from 3 yards out in the fourth quarter. Seems fitting that he bookended the game, scoring the first and last touchdowns on this great offensive day for the Packers. Levens finished the game with 100 yards rushing, with 54 of those yards coming on Green Bay's final drive of the game, where his hard running not only helped Green Bay kill the clock, but helped them ice the game. And he wasn't just a threat on the ground. He did it through the air as well. Brett Favre targeted Dorsey Levens 7 times. Levens caught the ball all 7 times, making him a nice, reliable security blanket for the quarterback. On those 7 catches, one off his career high, Levens picked up 40 yards. For all the math majors out there, take the 100 rushing yards and add the 40 receiving yards, and you get a player that finished the game with 140 yards from scrimmage. That's a great day for anyone, but for a man who is not supposed to play, and for a man who is still dealing with a sprained collarbone, is absolutely ridiculous. And to make matters even crazier, here's every game that Levens had played in his NFL career thus far, prior to Monday night's game against the Patriots. This is a look at every single game and his yards from scrimmage total in each of them, so the rushing yards plus the receiving yards. Only once in his career prior to this game did he have more than 110 yards from scrimmage in a game, which came in Week 3 of that 1997 season against the Miami Dolphins. See that red bar all the way on the right side of the screen? Yeah, that's his scrimmage total from this game against the Patriots. Not only was the 140 yards a career high at the time, but it was a career high by a fairly substantial amount. And remember, he was doing all of this while he was never supposed to play, and while dealing with a sprained collarbone. And after the game, naturally, all the talk was about Levens and how the heck he was able to do what he did, especially since Levens somehow got better as the game went on, even though he said that the injury got worse as the game progressed. Levens said that he won't be able to move after that performance, but said, "I didn't know how much I'd be able to play, and I didn't know how much I'd be able to withstand. I took some pretty good licks, and it stood up pretty good. I have to give a lot of credit to the training staff, because they got me ready to play." And members of the Packers had nothing but respect and admiration for Levens and how hard he worked and ran in the face of adversity. Head coach Mike Holmgren called him a tough guy, and expressed doubts, just like everyone else, that he'd even be able to play in the game. Brett Favre said, "I know Dorsey wasn't 100%, but I've never seen a back run harder than he did tonight. And honestly, considering what he did throughout the entire game, and considering all the circumstances associated with this performance, it's hard to disagree a whole lot with that assessment." And wide receiver Derek Mays said what just about everyone was thinking, saying on Levens, "I admire him. He did a heck of a job, especially under the circumstances." Levens knew he was in serious pain. Heck, after the first hit, he thought about sitting down and getting taken off the field. But he wasn't going to miss this game no matter what, saying, "When it's Monday Night Football and the lights come on, there's no way you're going to come out of the game. Sometimes, you have to do what needs to be done." And safe to say, he did just that, and then some. Dorsey Levens had a fantastic career in the NFL, especially for a 5th-round pick. He played 11 seasons, lasting all the way until 2004. He made it to 3 Super Bowls, won Super Bowl 31, had 2 seasons with over 1,000 rushing yards, including that 1997 season, made it to the Pro Bowl during the 1997 season, and is a member of the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame. But this had to be the highlight of his career, and one of the toughest performances of all time. Because on this Monday night in 1997, Levens, along with all of his rowdy friends, were here and were ready for some football, even if his collarbone definitely was not. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9. To see college football videos, subscribe to JaguarGator8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.